Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, a proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Well, the Saints season is over, and by all accounts, it was a good season. The Saints went from 7 wins to 12. They went from staying home to being in the playoffs. They went from having the worst defense in NFL history statistically to having a good defense. They went from not making the playoffs to winning their first ever road playoff game. Lenny, by definition, unquestionably, this was a good season and a step up despite the stinging disappointment of the season ending.
Well, anytime you do anything but win the Super Bowl, your season is going to end either in a loss or not in the playoffs. And as a result, you're right. The sting is still there 2 days after a loss to Seattle to end your season in the divisional playoffs. But you hit the nail on the head. It's certainly a massive improvement, and I think you could point to a couple of MVPs on this team, and neither one of them wore a uniform all year. It's Sean Payton being back on the sidelines, and it's Rob Ryan with the improvement he made to this defense, the greatest statistical improvement, at least in terms of yards, in the history of the NFL.
No question about it. The Saints had a good offseason. They drafted well, and the addition of Keenan Lewis via free agency was huge. So they've got some things to do moving forward to be better, but obviously they've got themselves in a good position. As for the game itself at Seattle, we knew they'd have to play a near-flawless game, if not a flawless game, to win against a better football team. And make no mistake about it, Seattle is a better football team than New Orleans. But, Lenny, they had their chances in this game. A couple of missed field goals, not so much on the kicker per se, but missed field goals. A terrible punt by Thomas Morstead that gave Seattle a field goal, which came after a dropped screen by Mark Ingram, which would have been a first down and maybe a lot more. And then, of course, an Ingram fumble that gave Seattle 7 just when the Saints got the wind at their backs after holding steady in the first quarter. So they had a chance in this game. They simply did not play well enough.
No, exactly. When you're on the road, you're playing the 1 seed. I want to say you have to play flawless, but you have to play close to flawless. And there were too many mistakes at key times, as you just mentioned, that really put the Saints behind the 8 ball. But give them credit. They continued to fight back in the fourth quarter when seemingly 16-0 at that point, went down, got the score, got the 2, even after Marshawn Lynch seemingly put the game away with a touchdown when he might have been better sliding to the ground and allowing 2 more minutes to run off the clock at that point. The Saints still had a chance going down, getting the score, recovering the onside kick, and having one last chance. I don't think you would have expected that the Saints would have a position or be in position really twice to score a potential game-tying touchdown with a 2-point conversion there in the last few minutes.
Marcus Colston had a terrific game with 11 catches. He was really good. He's still got game. Boy, this guy's consistent as can be. Such a good player. But on that final play from scrimmage, you wonder why he didn't just step out of bounds. I don't care if the play's called that way or not. Sometimes you got to call an audible, just like a quarterback does. Nobody near you. Step out of bounds a yard up the field at the 35, and there's no doubt Drew Brees can reach the end zone from there. And you got a puncher's chance with a 6'6" tight end and a 6'4", 6'5" wide receiver to at least throw it up. More so of a chance than you had on what he tried to do.
No, obviously it's something you would assume they've worked on at some point during the year, some kind of gadget play to make it seem like they're going to run, the Hail Mary to one side with those big guys in there, and then you have somebody sitting there on the other side, presumably uncovered, although Travaris Cadet was indeed covered. He just kind of lost where he was in terms of, how he was positioned to make the quick pass, and it ended up going 5 yards forward instead of backwards. But just the same, you don't take away from what he did, because Colston, after 1 catch in the first half, caught 10 balls in the second half for 136 yards and was a big difference in allowing the Saints to be in position to make that play.
Yeah, one note on Jimmy Graham, too. He had a remarkable season, and he'll crack the bank now. 16 touchdown receptions, and he was brilliant. But he's got to mature a little bit and know how to handle those situations, because what transpired before the game can't happen. Even if you're baited, you need to walk away. Not just one opposing player, but at least 2 that we know of and saw that were reported, and he even knocked the cap off of one, and then he went out and no-showed, basically. And of course, Seattle's defense had a lot to do with that, but you got to handle yourself a little bit more maturely than that.
Yeah, what we saw this year, and you're right, he's going to break the bank this year, somewhere, whether it's a franchise tag situation or he gets the long-term deal. Look at what Seattle did to him in 2 games. Look at what New England did to him. Look at what Philadelphia did to him to a certain degree. There were teams, certain types of defenses that started to scheme against him. And that's going to be something that's going to need to be addressed in this offseason is maybe that one additional weapon out there that's going to help stretch the field a little bit to open some windows for a Graham, for a Colston, for some of those people to be able to do their work underneath to make this offense more effective.
Yeah, the Saints have a good future in Kenny Stills. He's a good player. And they'll get Joseph Morgan. That can help next year with his vertical ability. But they need another impact wide receiver. That would help Graham dramatically. And, oh, by the way, the games that you just mentioned about Graham were all road games against playoff teams. The New Orleans Pelicans are back in action against a pretty good opponent in the San Antonio Spurs Monday night. Lenny, with the injury situation, the record as it is, being in the Western Conference, is it time to start looking ahead to next season already?
I think it is. And I would, and contracts being what they are, we don't know the long-term situation of Drew Holiday, who on Friday got ruled out indefinitely with the stress fracture in his tibia. You got Pierre Jackson, your second-round pick, sitting in the developmental league right now. Is it worth bringing him up to get a look?
Sure it is. Why not?
He's been sensational. He's averaging 30 points a game. Yeah. Let's see what you have there in terms of a guy who might be able to contribute in the second half of the season. And, there's been reports out there that maybe they're shopping Eric Gordon again.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. But, see what you have there. You're right. I'm not saying give up on the season at this point, but you are, 11th or 12th in the West right now. And, it's going to take a miraculous second-half turnaround here to put yourself in playoff position.
Yeah, because when they play good teams, they lose. It's that simple. Anytime they play anybody above 500, they don't win. They've only won one of those games all season long, and that was against Portland. And, of course, the injuries are definitely impactful. I mean, there's no getting around that. But it's still a bit disappointing because even without the injuries, the one thing they simply haven't improved on, Lenny, is defending people. They just don't stop people. They give up too many points.
Yeah, and that's, one of the things that you'd like to see, addressed down the road. It's not something that's going to get addressed in the short term, but still, a combination of a player set where you can at least have some defensive stoppers on the floor, along with a lot of that offensive skill that you do have.
And finally, Jeremy Hill tweeting Monday morning that he is going pro after all, which of course goes against what he had initially said in some published interviews. And this is not a surprise, Lenny. We were surprised when he said he'd stay in the first place based upon the grades he gets. This guy is at worst a high second-round pick, if not a first-round pick.
Yeah, and one thing we've learned here in New Orleans is it worth spending high picks on running backs? You see the high picks that the Saints have spent on running backs, and the guys that they've gotten as street free agents, as undrafted rookies, and you don't see a lot of difference in terms of the level of production of those guys. So, yeah, he will get drafted, but again, it'd be interesting to see just how high he goes, and he has had some off-field issues, obviously, at LSU. How will that impact his draft status?
Yeah, as a running back, if you have the opportunity and you're going to be a high pick, you need to go because of the mortality rate of that position. I don't think there's any question about that. SportsNola.com tonight, special time, 5 p.m.
Right, 5 o'clock tonight, and then our sports block moves back to its regular time on Tuesday night. Of course, Tuesday night at 6, as we mentioned in the weekend preview. If you missed Prep Recruiting Insider last week with our exclusive with Leonard Fournette, you can check it out Tuesday night at 6 o'clock on WHNO.
You will enjoy it. Lenny, thanks as always.
Hey, we'll see you later this week.
That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great week and God bless.